Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is November 11th, and right now we're looking at the mid-level water vapor loop here. You can see Alaska, BC, Washington, Oregon. You can clearly see all this moisture pointed at the Pacific Northwest here. Low pressure system moving through British Columbia brought the big winds last night, and you can kind of see the high pressure down here. So we're caught in between here in the Pacific Northwest, kind of like between gears in a machine. Low pressure versus high pressure, tight gradient, strong winds, heavy precipitation. Got woken up by it several times last night. 47-mile-per-hour gust at my home. So this will be moving on and bringing some big winds across eastern Washington, probably starting as I speak now and on in through the early afternoon, moving across Idaho and Montana as well. Then we'll take a look at another system headed our way as well, and then we'll take a look at the extended forecast. Some interesting stuff showing up there in some of the European and the GFS models, both showing it. But I'll explain that as we go through the video here today. And check it out, we're doing quite well. We're up over 53,000 subscribers. So again, this channel is not possible without you guys. Much appreciation, much love to everybody out there. Taking a look at the gusty winds today for eastern Washington, a little bit of an uptick again here. Look at Spokane calling for up towards 50 miles per hour, Ritzville out there, and this should be increasing as we go here through the late morning into the early afternoon hours. Watch out for that crosswind. You can see I-90 is here, and you can see some of these crosswinds coming as you move across Moses Lake and Ritzville. Highway 2, something similar also. Kind of sheltered there in Yakima, but the higher terrain, some of the Natchez out there, the ridge tops and whatnot, pretty gusty winds incoming, probably 60, 65 plus out there. Ellensburg a bit sheltered also. Now take a look at that wind advisory that does exist for eastern Washington, some of the Idaho Panhandle and western Montana. It does extend it down into northern portions of Oregon here as well. This is also the winter storm warning across the northern Cascades, and you can see it does include Mount Baker ski area. This goes on in through tonight, probably finishing up between 1 and 2 feet of snow and some gusts, probably up over 50 miles per hour, probably closer to 60 actually across some of the higher terrain out there. So heads up if you're off in the backcountry. And looking at some of the wind speeds we've gotten since midnight here, look at Bellingham. 63 miles per hour. The HRRR really nailed that. It continuously showed gusts into the lower 60s. Really nailed that. I think there was a 64 mile per hour gust out here across Whidbey Island as well. And you can see a lot of 50s, upper 50s here, some upper 40s, 51 for Everett Painfield there, some mid 40s for the Seattle Metro, and as I said, 47 miles per hour at my house. This is looking at Hoquiam at 55. You can see Northwest Oregon got some gusts up into the 50s as well. Look at this, Tacoma Narrows gusting probably into the low 50s. Savage winds rolling through across the bridge, especially over the open water there. Olympia probably 50 plus also, and you can see some of these high winds down the Oregon coast here as well. Well, not high winds, but wind advisory level winds and some gusty winds out there across some of the Portland Metro as well, and some of the higher terrain of the Cascades. Eastern Washington, these should be picking up as we speak here. Like I mentioned, on into early afternoon, gusts up over 50 miles per hour are possible out there, so you could even get some blowing dust as well. And if you want a nice affordable home weather station to watch all this crazy weather we get here in the Pacific Northwest, click on that link down below to save 10% off. Always much more fun to watch the weather when you've got a weather station on your house. Great smartphone app with that system as well. Now looking at the HRRR today, you can see we do have the potential for a couple lightning strikes here across some of western Washington, mainly north of Portland here up into BC. So watch out for that when you see the sky start to darken up a bit here. Pay attention. You could get a clap of thunder and a lightning strike in with some of those heavier showers. This is looking at the composite reflectivity. I probably woke up a lot of you guys this morning. It woke me up as these segments came rolling over. Powerful frontal system associated with some of this cold front action. I had a 47 mile per hour gust, as I mentioned, and that's what brought some of the bigger winds here across some of the central Puget Sound. And now you can see that moving through and kind of through the Cascades. And now you can see the showery activity behind that, which could pack a thunderstorm or two here across the region. So don't sleep on some of these heavier showers rolling in as we go through the day today. Looking at the day one thunderstorm outlook, kind of shows this pretty well here. It kind of includes Olympia, Tacoma, northbound through Seattle, western Washington. This would include southwest BC, also out towards the Washington coast. So taking a look at the 10-meter wind gust. This is the NAM3 cam. I just want to kind of show you guys that this is wrapping up. The biggest wind gusts are wrapping up here for western Washington and for Oregon, but it is moving into eastern Washington as we speak. You can see some 48, 50 mile per hour gusts possible and even higher across the higher terrain, the ridge tops, some gusty winds winds coming down out of the east slopes of the Cascades, as well as this moves off into Idaho, the Panhandle, and western Montana, especially across the Rockies. Very windy conditions incoming here today with this system moving through. And let's go ahead and play this out a little bit more, because we got another system quickly coming in. You can see some gusts maybe up into the 40-mile-per-hour range, 45 for some of the coastal areas here as we go on in through tomorrow night. Maybe some blustery winds across some of the Puget Sound, Willamette Valley, but not like what we got last night and this morning here across a lot of the area. Now, something interesting that's been showing up in some of the model runs here. This is precipitable water, and I want you to watch this area out here near the date line. There's some enhanced convection out here that looks like it's forecast to remain on in through the next week that may impact our storm chances as we go. Here goes the system, the next one going through the Pacific Northwest on Sunday. So we let this play out a while, and the European has been pretty steadfast with bringing the system here. You can see this moisture moving, and look at this strong low pressure center moving up towards Vancouver Island in western BC here with an atmospheric river associated with it. The European keeps showing this. The GFS has also started to latch on to this as well with a strong storm system setting up somewhere here along the western coast of BC, and previous runs also had it diving into Washington. But I've been watching that one for a few days now, and I'll show you why here in some further detail. But again, you can kind of see it breaking right on Vancouver Island. That would be a pretty dynamic storm. Looking at the GFS, again, out here near the date line, increased convection out here, possibly associated with the Madden-Julian oscillation, or it could be just strictly El Nino related as well. El Nino and the Madden-Julian oscillation have a lot in common. But yeah, there is going to be some increased convection out here over the next week or so. And you can kind of see that here on the GFS picking up on that same time frame, bringing that strong atmospheric river and storm system towards the west coast here. So potentially windy conditions coming in with that. It's still off in fantasy land, so we have a lot of time to look at it, but kind of an interesting scenario unfolding there. And now this is looking at the European. And again, you've got Japan way over to the left here. There's Alaska, there's the state of Hawaii, and there's the system that moved through excuse me, last night and this morning. So we'll put that into motion. There goes our next system, frontal system driving through as we go through tomorrow night. Storm drops down off the coast of California, and then you can see some of this activity start to stream across the central northern Pacific Ocean, streaming north of Hawaii there, and develop this extremely dynamic storm on the European. It's been showing just a very powerful system somewhere between Washington and western BC. Look at that, a 965 millibar low just burrowing into British Columbia would bring huge winds across the area. So it's still fantasy right now, but it's been showing up in model to model run, and then another storm system on the heels of that. But if we look here, this is the equator we're looking at. And you can see South America, there's Australia, the maritime continent, and here's Africa. So what's upcoming here? Today's November 11th. So through the next week, you can kind of see that increased convection out there across the equatorial Pacific near the date line, or just off to the west of the date line here. So the Hawaiian Islands would be there. And that's where that storm would develop here and move into the Pacific Northwest. So this shows up as kind of a Madden-Julian oscillation signal. It's kind of a wave that propagates around the entire planet between 30 and 60 days. And you can see for this week, it would be set up somewhere across the date line, and then it moves over kind of Central America, South America, and then starts to reemerge here across some of Africa. Pretty typical stuff here as the Madden-Julian oscillation goes, and then maybe comes back out later in December across some of the maritime continent, and maybe back out over the Pacific Ocean. But that's the stage we're watching right there. So it makes sense that we would get storm formation with that increased convection there. And again, there would be that storm system. So let's track it back, and you can see it move all the way down towards that area of increased convection there during that time frame, November 11th through the 17th. So anyway, just a little peek into how my mind works as I'm looking way off into the extended forecast of some of these model runs. But anyway, it is November. It is windstorm season here, so you got to watch for that stuff. So if we look at Seattle-Tacoma, this is yesterday afternoon's European run. It did pretty good with the wind speeds here. Actually, I think SeaTac clocked in at 41. I had 47. I'm not that far from SeaTac, but I happened to win this round. But you can see kind of that increase in some of these wind gusts here. Some gusts up over 50 miles per hour starting to show up in the ensembles there, and that would be when that storm system moves into the area. So kind of a detailed big explanation there on fantasy windstorm outlooks. Friday Harbor, you can see that off into the future there as well, starting to get some ensemble agreement actually that far out. But again, purely fantasy at this point. We're not going to start preparing for that just yet. We have plenty of time to look at it. I mean, we got a full week to watch that thing develop and see if it stays. And here's Tofino up on Vancouver Island as well, kind of showing some of those higher wind speeds as well. Now, don't forget, we got a storm system coming in tomorrow. So this is 24-hour running precipitation total. You got European European on the left versus GFS on the right. You can see the European is wetter than the GFS. It shows somewhere around 7/10 of an inch of rain for Seattle, about 1/4 of an inch on the GFS, but big amounts across Vancouver Island on both models here as well. And pretty good model agreement on where this system is going to drop most of its precipitation. Put that into motion, you can clearly see that storm driving down the coast of California here, potentially bringing heavy rain to the state of California there as well. And then we wait to see what's coming in our future here in the Pacific Northwest. Here's total 24-hour snow total, actually. Let's run this through here. So as we go on in through Sunday, the next system looks like it's going to bring a few more inches across, higher peaks, Paradise, maybe Mount Baker ski area and higher elevations there. Not much going on at Snoqualmie Pass, for example. They should not have much problem keeping any snow that does fall off the roadway there with a couple snow plows. And this is looking at a wider view of things here. I want to show you what's coming. Excuse me, this is the NAM 3 cam, the 12Z run, hot off the presses, the North American model, high resolution. You're looking at total snow concentration. You can see that snow piling up as we go through the evening and on in through tomorrow morning here across some of Idaho and Montana, eastern BC, as that storm moves through the area, and then the next storm rolls in and drops a few more inches with it as well. This is looking at the wind gusts, and I want to show the wider view of things here. You can see this propagating east, bringing the big winds to eastern Washington, but look at some of the Rockies of Alberta and Montana here as well, the higher terrain of Idaho and Montana. Big gusts incoming here as we go through this afternoon and on into tonight across Montana. So heads up if you're traveling eastbound on I-90 or you live in western Montana or the Idaho Panhandle, some of the higher terrain. No big winds expected really across some of the valley areas. I mean, you're looking at Boise peaking out probably right about now in some of the mid-20s. So nothing crazy down there across some of the valley areas where a lot of the population is, but some big winds rolling across the Rockies as we go through this afternoon and evening tonight. And then the next system arrives here, and you can see it not nearly as windy as the one that went through last night, but maybe some 50-mile-per-hour gusts just off the shoreline there on the Oregon coast, and some blustery winds maybe across the northwest interior also. Maybe the Puget Sound gusting into the lower 30s. Nothing too wild. Now, this is looking at total precipitation in inches. Let's look and see what the NAM brings with this next storm system as well. Here we go with it rolling in here, and you can see it dropping. It's kind of dry for Seattle as well, but I don't even know if we should be looking at the NAM for this one here because it kind of underdoes some of the precipitation here. But you can kind of see that next system rolling in there Sunday anyway. Landslide potential here. SeaTac right on that threshold here, and we got about 4/10 of an inch, maybe half an inch of rain so far this morning. I can actually see the water seeping through some of the roadway out here in Normandy Parks. I kind of wonder what exactly that means. Kind of interesting out there, but we are on that threshold there, so don't be completely surprised if you notice some landslide activity, small landslide activity. I don't know of anything major going on yet. Here's the 6 to 10 day precipitation probability. Goes through November 20th, kind of just a blanket above average here across much of the west, and temperature kind of near average, maybe a little bit above as you go further on into the east. But yeah, interesting system last night, man. That woke me up several times. I had some gusts up towards the mid and upper 30s quite a few times, and then we had that 47-mile-per-hour gust right before that big segment in the cold front moved through this morning. So I know that probably woke a lot of people up. Leave some comments below on how that storm affected you guys last night, and of course it's still ongoing for some areas east of the Cascades. So anyway, we'll take a look at everything again tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see if that storm sticks around in the European. I mean, the model runs have been showing a very powerful system somewhere between western BC and western Washington the last few days. So it'd be interesting to watch that unfold here over the next few days and see if it is actually on to something, and maybe the GFS will start to agree with it, or the models could take it away completely. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.